Welcome back to another episode of Travel-Preneur. I'm your host, Megan McSwain. Today, we are diving into the vibrant world of water sports with Kevin ONeil, the owner of Destiny Water Adventures in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Hello, Kevin. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Megan. Thanks for having me.
For sure. Kevin, can you share the story of how you transitioned from being a parasail captain in Key West to founding Destiny Water Adventures?
So I was in Key West for about 10 years, operating parasail boats for a large water sport company down there. I was looking at some different opportunities up here in North Florida in the world of parasailing and essentially driving a boat. I like the idea of having like sort of an off season so I could get some more time with my family as I was working every major holiday in Key West. Christmas and Thanksgiving are incredibly busy times down there. Snowbirds like to come down and do water sports. So I sort of initially just thought I might come drive a boat for somebody else up here. And I kind of looked at the area, looked at the market, looked at neighborhoods, seemed like I felt like undervalued. When I started looking at some of the companies, their marketing and media, they just sort of seemed behind the times a little bit. And it just kind of like dawned on me that, man, I like with a website and a good idea and a boat, not necessarily parasail, we could probably make something work up here. So without really knowing like where we would go or how we would run the trip, I conceptualized sort of a day of play. Well, it wasn't my concept. It was happening down in Key West for years, where they do this sort of like jet skis, kayak, paddleboard, tubing, snorkeling, and they sort of put it all into this one like water sport day excursion. And there was nothing like that happening here. So I thought that we could bring that concept here. And that's what we did. It was great. We started with one boat. And two jet skis. We ended up getting into the rental and tour side of jet skis and boat rentals. And today we have about 30 vessels on the boat side and about 15 jet ski rental side, TWC.
You mentioned you noticed that people were kind of behind on the times. How so? Was that like not using a website for booking? Sometimes when you go to do these water sports, sometimes you can't book online. You have to call and say, okay, reserve. It just kind of seems outdated. What was your experience?
Yeah. Like there was very few using major res tech, Wave Res or Fair Harbor, Peak. The websites just looked very outdated and they've since changed. I don't know if you know this, but I also have a podcast as well. So we talk at them on our show. I'm like, man, you guys have got to. So that has definitely drastically changed in the last few years. When we got here, it was blue ocean insofar as the marketing landscape. Some people were working on SEO and stuff like that. They had some blogs. No one was really utilizing Google Ads. I really wish I wouldn't have started a podcast and told people to go on Google Ads because it's been like, our cost for conversions has really gone up. So it was just basically websites and marketing and stuff like that. They weren't really going after every single avenue that they could. Instagram, Facebook. It's obviously TikTok wasn't there, but Snapchat was still a thing. And they just weren't really getting after it. We see today like a lot of internet entrepreneurs, the way they sort of market themselves. So we sort of applied that very early on in our strategy.
And reflecting on your journey, what have been some of the most significant changes or growth moments for your company, for Destiny Water Adventures, since it started?
We've been through a lot in 7 years. As I mentioned, we initially started with the concept of an all-day water sport excursion where everything was provided to you. We were operating that on what's called a spoil island. The spoil islands are basically when they are dredging up an area so they can create a channel, they have to do something with the sand. So they basically make becomes like a man-made island, but then like trees grow and geography and life and everything, then it's just like a regular island. But they call them specifically spoil islands because it's quite literally the spoil so that they dredge up from the ground and then just put it over like next to the channel. So being that really wasn't anyone's jurisdiction, it wasn't the Gulf National Seashore. So we have a park ranger who's responsible for about 700 miles with a single boat. But regardless, we're just like, it's a natural beauty. We'll go out there, we'll do charters. So we did that. We scaled that for about 2 years. And then the county, Destin in particular, in Okaloosa County, and I'm a huge fan of water sports because we have a little area here called Crab Island that a lot of people like to go to. When they saw us out there operating, the powers that be, the county officials were concerned that Crab Island Part 2 was happening. In Crab Island, it's a real popular sandbar, a lot of boating, a lot of drinking, a lot of people, very famous tourist spot in Destin. And so I guess the locals didn't want to start to see that happen on these islands in the back, which is kind of like locals only sort of thing. They brought me for commission, like basically said, no, you can't operate out there. And we went through, that happened literally overnight. So we just decided to grow our boat rental side of the business. And then in year 4, actually, at that point, we were up to about 15 boats and 7 or 8 feet or something like that. The marina where we were actually renting from decided that they were going to get into the business, and they evicted us with something like 30 days notice. So I needed to find a home, and it's an extremely saturated market, not a lot of flip space or commercial boats. I don't know what it looks like in Texas, but it's a highly competitive market here. So to grab 15, 20 vessels and just say, hey, do you have a spot for me? It's not easy. So a friend of mine owned it was just a smaller water sports company, and it was kind of like a struggling asset, and it was right down the road. He just really didn't want to have any part of it. And his partner was running the day-to-day, and it wasn't profitable. So they threw a number at me that works for us, it worked for them. We took over there. We brought our vessels, purchased their vessels, have added some more vessels since then. We were really fortunate to end up where we did and when we did. Those are some of the challenges that we faced.
Like you mentioned, being overly saturated, of course, there's some areas where it is not yet, but the ones that are, it's hard to break into that because so many other people have been doing the same thing for a long time. So how does Destiny Water Adventure stand out in terms of services and customer service experience?
Oh, yeah. User experience, customer journey is obviously the highest important in our employee handbook. I'm a huge advocate of the customer journey, and their experience with us begins the moment they land on our website, the moment they call into us, and it ends not after they step off the boat or jet ski, but hopefully never. Hopefully that journey continues with us and we retain them as a customer and continue to provide value, whether it be through content, through email marketing, through just basically keeping up with them and seeing how they're doing. And when they return back to town, we'll let them know that, hey, we're here. We offer returning customer discount, all these sort of things. So even if we don't do business with a customer, they end up calling us, we try to provide as much value, information about the area, and active stewards of our waterways. And so if we do acquire that person as a customer, that value continues all the way down from walking, getting their belongings into the car, getting their stuff to the boat, making sure they feel comfortable, making sure we have different toys, that we have retail, if they forgot sunblock, if they need ice, like we have everything for them. We want to make sure that Destiny Water Adventures exists as very much as a brand, even though that we operate as sort of a commodity business because it is a boat rental or a jet ski rental, not much a tour. So we have to make sure that we're making that experience stand out and be the highlight of their trip so that they come back to us for years to come.
And you mentioned making them feel comfortable and having everything that they might need, but also safety is key in water sports. How does the team ensure for first timers and for return guests or just less experienced renters? How do you kind of implement those safety measures?
Firstly, it starts with education. And I'm going to throw this out there. It's a little bit of a shameless plug because it did just happen about 2 hours ago. I also am in partnership with a company called TakeMyBoatTest.com. It's boater safety education. We're sponsored by NASLA certified and operating in the state of Florida, something I've been working on 18 months. Safety is a huge passion of mine. Being a captain on the waters of Key West, I've vlogged. Malcolm Gladwell says it's like 10,000 hours. I've got to be somewhere when you become an expert at something, right? I got to be somewhere like I have no idea. I've calculated that I've probably flown about 100,000 people parasailing. So with those kind of hours on the water, I've rented boats, I've driven head boats, I've operated in water sports in every single capacity. And 2 common threads I sort of see in a safe environment, right, to just sort of look at it from a 30,000 foot perspective, is education and communication. Those are the two biggest hallmarks. The customer is firstly, is take the proper requirements that they need to possess a port of boater safety test or have some kind of boater's education, whether it be the night before, their trip down to the dock, they're getting their brain prepped to get on this boat, right? And then it continues when they reach our desk and we go through all the forms, the insurance, and we have them checking that. They're not just flying through the checklist, but hey, actually look at some of these checklists. These are really important. So we reinforce it when they get signed in. When they hit the dock, they meet their dock hand, and he's going to go over the boat with them, and he's going to order the jet ski or whatever it may be. And he's going to make sure that we reinforces everything that happened from check-in, everything that happened on the test, and then very specifically to our geography, how these things are applied practically while they're on the boat. And then we want them to do a lap, and we want to make sure they completely understand everything that they've just been told, because it's all happened in the last 2 days. And if they're a first timer or they're new to boating, we want to make sure that they are comfortable. And if they're not, and they fall under 6 passengers, then we have captains on board. We say, hey, look, if you're completely not comfortable, this doesn't make sense to you, we have a captain. We can take up to 6 people on this boat. We can turn the rental into a charter, and we'll get out there. We also make it really clear. Look, guys, if you got planned on drinking this afternoon, give us a call. We'll come back. It's not a charter. We're not breaking even if 12 people on the boat. We have to take the boat back into possession because you don't have a sober driver on the boat. Then that's what we're going to do. If we've stayed in Coast Guard and FWC and everybody, we've had that conversation. We made sure that they understand, look, we're not trying to do illegal charters out here, but also we want to reduce our BUI impact that can be happening out here. So we also use tech. We use geofencing, collision avoidance on our jet ski. Yeah, safety is paramount to our operation.
This episode is brought to you by TravelPayments.com. Travel businesses have unique needs when it comes to credit card processing. From large average ticket sizes and tolerance for higher chargeback ratios to simple integrations with the most popular shopping cart systems, the travel industry specialists at TravelPayments.com have you covered. Unfortunately, many of the most popular credit card processors initially accept travel businesses, but without warning, freeze their merchant accounts and the thousands of dollars in them because these service providers don't understand or support the unique needs of travel industry business. Don't get stuck with one of the big guys who will freeze you out without a moment's notice. Instead, work with a travel industry specialist who will support your business every step of the way. Visit TravelPayments.com to get a free quote today. Let's talk about things you can't control, like the weather and seasonal fluctuation. So what strategies have you employed to keep the business thriving year-round?
Year-round's difficult. I've welded other businesses that connect to our infrastructure. I also have a Jeep rental business. Well, I call it Jeep rental. We're actually transitioning to a straight-up car rental business. We do car rentals. We do events, so like inflatable bounce houses and water slides and stuff like that. And that's not necessarily to keep us running it full or all year long. It's really to reduce the cost of labor to make sure we're keeping our staff going all year long, because our staff is great. They're the key to all of our success, to keep everybody safe. And they're really boots on the ground when storms do roll in. So when weather does get gnarly, we have this ethic of, when in doubt, don't go out. We think that it's going to be above 17 knots sustained. If we think there's lightning, if we even think that there's a chance of it rolling in or a high probability, then we shut it down. We're in North Florida, so we're in the top of the Gulf Stream. Like, the weather here is extremely erratic, extremely unpredictable. They'll call 0%, and then all of a sudden I've got 40-mile-an-hour gusts. That is making sure my staff is trained with maritime tradition. As a maritime professional, the licensed captain, I try and teach that down to not just the captains that we employ, but the dock hands that one day might have their captain's license. So it's very much a case of, when you're a licensed captain, you have a responsibility in the eyes of the U.S. Coast Guard to help a vessel in distress. When we feel that there could be potentially a vessel in distress, we can't get to, or we can't call them, they're too far away, then we're on skis, we're on our higher powered horse machine chase boat, flying out there to go get them. If you don't have the desire for that adrenaline rush, like if you can't run into the storm and run into the fray, and that's not like your thing, like if you go, hey, I don't feel like this is safe, then you're in the wrong business,
Right.
right? Because maritime professionals, we get caught in storms. We get caught in stormy weather because, as the saying goes, calm seas never made for a good captain or something like that, right? I think I screwed that up. This is how you learn, and this is how you get that sixth sense about where you go, this doesn't feel right. We're not even going to risk it. Sorry, guys, let's get you on another day or wait, because I've been in this situation enough times, and something about the weather right now doesn't feel right, depending on what the radar says.
Yeah. And thank God for people like you, because sometimes people don't have that awareness and kind of get greedy and go out anyways, and it's not safe.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something I rail against, that there's so much ability in this country. The state of Florida has been on the forefront of fighting it with bills like SB 606, most recently SB 30, which is an education bill. SB 606 was kind of an insurance bill, but the fact is in a lot of these states that have zero regulation, you can just go buy a UPV or uninspected passenger vessel, basically a recreational boat, and you drop it in the water. Or you can get like 10 of them, drop them in the water, have no idea what you're doing, and go, hey, man, I'm just going to rent boats. How easy can it be? You can't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs. I've said that saying myself. But sometimes those eggs are human beings, and it fundamentally erodes the industry if we have stuff like that happening. So
sure. Yeah.
It's really important.
You clearly have a passion for water sports and, of course, the Florida coast and just kind of all that goes into this business in that state. And like you mentioned, it really comes down to, when you're running a business like this, having good employees that you trust and that are going to do a good job and share that passion that you have. So how do you think that translating that enthusiasm into creating these memorable experiences for the guests?
So it comes down to culture, and it comes down to having the ability, without sounding too cliche, but of leading from the front, right? It's very important that our employees and our management and ownership all know that hierarchy at our company is as customers, and then it's going to be employees, and then it's management, and then owners. And Simon Sinek famously said that leaders eat last. And I think that it's very important that you have at least a thread of that in your company culture. The passion portion of it, like passing that part of it on, is seeing the ability. When a guy's got to go out into something that is not. I find it fun, and our leadership, the guys who are true, like gotten their captain's license, who are maritime professionals, they like the adrenaline rush of going into the fray. I will know right away if somebody comes back and they're kicking dirt and they're like, "Oh, it's raining and I don't want to be out here and I got cold and I had to go chase down a customer." I know immediately, hey, this business might be for you. But man, if they come back and they got smiles like, "Oh my God, that was crazy. Like, I can't believe that happened. You see this." And then the wind was coming. There was like lightning. We had to pull the boat up the thing. And they got an adrenaline rush from it. I'm like, we're going to work a little bit closer. Management's going to work with them. And then we will pay for them to go through captain school. And if we don't have enough vessels to support a number of captains, then we'll just tell them, hey, the last thing I want to do is let you go. But at the same point, like, if we don't have enough captainship to go around, then I understand you need to get on a boat and be behind the helm, because that's your place as a leader. And so you see it in people that their passion. I just had a talk with one of my first hires, and I said, hey, I'm not seeing you move forward. We are holding you back in any way. You're a great employee, but if we're holding you back in any way, if you're not learning something here, if you're not getting your captain's license, you can't just be stuck here. Like, what do you want to do? Where do you want to be? And he was like, I unequivocally want to be here. I want to be in the future. And we have a great conversation. So again, it comes back to culture, and it comes back to education and communication, talking with your people, making sure your people are learning, making sure that they're happy, and making sure that they're growing. It's just the same thing, as I said, about the UX on the customer side. Those employees are then going to be with you for a long time, or they're going to spin out, they're going to go out and they're going to grow and spin up their own thing. And I want to do whatever I want to do whatever I can to support that.
Looking ahead, what new ventures or expansions are you considering for the business, if any?
Yeah. Like I said earlier, I do a podcast as well. It's called the Awkward Water Sport Guys podcast. Basically marketing best practices for water sports. We put on an event every year. And 18 months ago, I started working on the Florida Temporary Boater Safety Certificate. It is a state certified and nationally certified. Once you start going through the process, this is not like something you can just set up like a course online and be accredited. Basically an irrevocable driver's license, but for boating. And getting more into the B2B space as far as working with operators to sort of start hammering this education home, right? Because I am so passionate about it, I really believe it's important that the operator that does have the capital to drop those 10 boats, whether it be Texas, it could be Chicago, down the river, it could be anywhere. Because they have the capital, they don't necessarily have the resources nor the pedigree to understand what it means to operate a safe and profitable water sport business, right? Safe, obviously, being the more important key metric.
Sure.
Yeah. So I see this sort of like time and time again where operators get in the business and they either bite off more than they can chew, or they get caught with their pants down with weather, or somebody gets hurt. Like, it happens all the time, whether employees, customers. Our first battle on that front is make sure we have educated guests. And that's where Take My Boat Test is obviously where our efforts are focused for that. But moving forward in the future, what we would like to do is act as also an educational resource for operators and livery professionals as well, because to my knowledge, we're the only education platform that is actually owned, operated, and run by maritime professionals and livery operators. As far as Destiny is concerned, I think that we're going to probably expand into different territories in the years to come. We're sort of maxed out in this market, I think, of what we can do as far as boat rentals and jet skis and that sort of thing. A head boat is in our future. So I have partners on this. So we have a lot of different things and a lot of different growth spurts right now. I'm really excited about all of it.
Cool. And for those aspiring to enter the water sports business, what advice would you offer based on your own journey and success?
It's difficult to answer because I've experienced so many highs and lows in this business. Do things the right way. And what I mean by that, and look, and I'm not a ask for permission guy. I am a beg for forgiveness guy all day long. When it is your county or your city or the state to a degree, right? You don't want to get your hands with the cookie jar or be running illegal charters. I don't mean it like that. But if you have a dream or you have an idea, don't wait on that. Like, execute and act on that. Obviously, always make sure you're operating safe and you have best practices and you can learn, but listen to podcasts like Travel-Preneur or podcasts like the Awkward Water Sports Guys. Like, mix it up with the industry, ask questions, get educated, execute. Ready, fire, aim. Like, execute on the thing that you want to do, but also learn while you're doing it and never quit learning and educating yourself. That's the best advice I can give.
That's important. Well, thank you so much for sharing this journey. I mean, it sounds like you guys are growing and growing fast. So that's very exciting. Let our listeners know where they can learn more about the company, the podcast, where they can connect with you, all of that stuff. Plug away.
Yeah, you feel free. You can reach out to me. I'm Kevin at destinywateradventures.com. We also have the Awkward Water Sport Guys podcast, which you can find on Spotify, Apple, or at our website, which is watersportpodcast.com. And then we also have a Facebook group. And feel free to send me, Kevin ONeil. I'm in North Florida. Send me a Facebook friend request. And it is a private group, so I have to invite you, or you can request to join. But yeah, hit me up.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, who wouldn't want to just come down to Florida, rent a boat? That sounds real nice right about now, these cold winter months.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then destinywateradventures.com. If you're listening to this and you're in town and you want to rent a boat or a jet ski, hit us up. You heard about us on the Travel-Preneur podcast. We'll give you a 10% discount. How about that?
Oh, I love that. That sounds good. Y'all heard that? To Florida. I mean, I might be on my way. That sounds amazing.
Come on.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. To our listeners, please like and subscribe to the Travel-Preneur podcast for future episodes and leave us reviews. That helps us a lot. And we will see you next time.